This looks like it's going to be a fun reach up there. Okay. Oh. I knew that was going to be loud, but I didn't expect it to make my ears ring. Unfortunately, that tool was a little too effective at widening out the pinch joint, and now I've widened it up so much that I can't actually get the bolt to connect on both sides, so I'm going to have to apply a little pressure. So this morning I discovered that my little vise that I have here only opens to 1.5 inches. And it turns out that the pinch joint on the knuckle is actually 1.6 according to my calipers, which means that I needed to buy a whole brand new vise just for the purpose of doing this, getting these back together. And I'm ever so thankful for the opportunity to have to do that. Nobody really close to me has a sufficiently large vise, except for the guy that's a working mechanic. Didn't want to bother him while he's at work. I figure I probably don't have to get this all the way tightened. In fact, I have to leave room to get the strut actually back in. I just need to make sure that it is actually tight enough. Well, it doesn't really lock very well. I have to make sure that it's actually tight enough for the bolt to do the rest of the job. I think I'm maxing out the amount of force that this thing will generate. And it turns out that maybe I've just been using the wrong tool all along. The vise just doesn't give enough pressure, so press it is. The next day. So this morning I came up with what I think is a fairly elegant solution to the problem of wanting my arbor press to be mobile. Obviously, if I screw it into my workbench, I can have all the torque I need, but I needed it to be mobile, so instead I have mounted it to a 2x6, which then I can just drop under the wheel of a car and it is not going to go anywhere. And that means that it is a mobile arbor press and I can take it with me should I ever need to make this repair in the field. And the gods were smiling on me this morning, and not only did I find my drill in the first place that I looked for it, it actually had the bit that I needed right in the chuck. So I'm sure everything else will go wrong today. Now, I was hoping to get that close enough that the sides would almost touch, but it turns out that it did budge it just enough for the bolt to start the thread, which means I think I can finish it off simply by tightening the bolt. Time warp. Let's see how it looks. So I guess I'm going to have to compress the springs to And this is the part where I kick myself in anger because I realize that I've been struggling with manually compressing this string and trying to push the control arm down at the same time. And the last time I had a decent coupon, I bought myself a set of spring compressors. And now I'm fighting against the strut itself. The spring is out of the equation, so I'm not fighting against that anymore. And I just, at this angle, the leverage I'm getting to compress the strut is enough, but then when I take my foot off the ground to press the control arm down, lose the lining up. So looks like it is time to bust out the ratchet straps, which seems to be the answer to everything. Recently I had to get the tire back onto my lawnmower this morning, so outstanding. And that should be the hardest part of all that. So now it's just a matter of putting all the bolts in place, reattaching the tie rod ends, outer tie rod ends, and throwing on the brakes, unattaching the rubber brake line, replacing it with the braided one, those sorts of things. So simple stuff. And technically the next step is to torque everything to spec, but I am impatient to make sure that these rims are actually going to clear the brake calipers. So I'm going to grab one of these, take this baby over. Yay, it fits. Oh yes, and it does fit well. And now we'll see whether Jason learned anything at all. If I did, the second one should go quicker, which we're going to time-lapse anyway, but second verse, same as the first. Well, there's an unexpected casualty. All right, let's see how this goes. What are you getting hung up on? Anything under there? And apparently it just needs to kind of wiggle in here. So let's wiggle it just a little bit. Try really hard not to drop this on the face. There we go. Can we... Goes in the way. Well, you know, hang it right there for the moment. Okay, fine. I'll just go right onto the studs from here. Yeah, that's gonna. Hey, that was easier than I thought. Ha! All right. Stay. Well, that went somewhat better than I expected it to go. those things that shouldn't be an issue, but all the things that shouldn't be an issue turn out to be an issue. That's just the way things have been going. So it almost makes up for my misadventure with the mandolin slicer last night. Yeah, those things are dangerous. And there's nothing you can do once you've cut it off. It's just going to bleed. Throw a Band-Aid on it and don't touch it for at least 12 hours, and then when you do decide it's time to touch it, soak it off, little bit by little bit. You can come to the ER if you want, but that's all we're going to do. That's not technically true. We do have stuff that will stop the bleeding a little bit quicker. A little bit. Alright, what on earth? Some sort of little rubber insulator thing. Don't know how that ended up there. Alright. So, speaking of medical things, can't believe that I haven't talked yet about the fact that I did find a co-driver, which makes me happy. His name's Phil Marsh. A little while ago I was talking with a couple of people at work about how, the different things that you want to look for in a co-driver. You need somebody who is, mentally quick, level-headed, good in an emergency because everything is going to go wrong eventually. And, a couple of other things, agile enough to escape from a burning car. And one of the nurses looked up and said, "So you're looking for a coworker?" And I thought about it. I said, well, yeah, kind of, because the traits that make for a good co-driver are kind of overrepresented both in the emergency department and in the EMS world. And since that's both my background, these are my people. So I get an email from Phil Marsh. Says, "Hey, we should meet." So I drive down to Ohio, and night of Southern Ohio Forest Rally, first night of it. I would have liked to stay to spectate, but I had a shift the next day, so I had to do a bunch of driving. Sat down across from him, and he starts talking about his background. He's like, "Well, I was an EMT firefighter until I went to nursing school." My people. So I think this is going to be fine. I think that wasn't critical. I'm going to pretend that wasn't critical, that little click that you may not have actually heard. No, that wasn't real. This seems like a good thing to time warp. I'm sorry, I've been using the... At this point, I am a couple fluids and a couple hoses away from getting this thing able to be started again, although not in that order. Got to do the hoses before the fluids. At which point we can find out how much weight I've lost before I throw the cage in this thing, drop it down onto its 4 tires, so I can pull it onto drive it onto a trailer and pull it all the way out to Ohio for that cage. So, getting excited. And I did not make a big enough deal last episode that. Last episode was actually the 1-year anniversary of this video series. I've been at this for a full year. Some of you are new watchers, some of you have been along for the entire ride, and whether you just watch a little bit here and there or the entire series, I'm happy to have you along for this ride. It makes me feel like I'm making 30 of you happy out there in the world. Whatever, this is mostly for me anyway. That way when I'm 70 I can look back at this and look at what an idiot I was. In the meantime, happy tax day, and I'll see y'all in another couple weeks. All right. Ow, cramp.